Hey, what's up? Today's video is a special one. It is the last and final video on this 2x2 wood stove. If you've been following along in the last video, we went ahead and we added the convection tubes to the outside as well as fully welding this whole thing up. And if you have not been following along, I will leave a link down below to a couple of videos, video 1 and 2, as well as the CAD designs. I'll leave a link down below on how you can get a hold of those. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Matthew Judd. I own MSJ Customs Welding and Fab, located in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. Now, this is the last and final video on this 2x2 wood stove. My goal in these videos is to make building this thing as simple as possible. If you bought the CAD designs, I want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck. I'll be touching on some of the side components, just kind of the finishing touches that goes onto this stove. So if things go smoothly, if things go the way I think they will, we will finish this up today and hopefully have time to actually test it. I'll be picking up in the exact same spot I left off. I've got this whole stove welded up, stitch welded on the sides, fully welded on all the seams. The bottom ash clean out pipe, that's also welded on. You should be at this point in the beginning of this video. If not, I would go back a couple of videos and catch up. In the beginning of this, I want to just kind of get some of the side components welded up, just kind of out of the way. It's going to make installation a little less complicated. So I've got item 7, the flue pipe, and item 9, the door plate. I've got these tacked up on my table. I want to weld them on my table instead of on the stove, just because as I'm welding, this plate is going to want to peel up. So I've got to clamp down to my table so it doesn't do that. Side note on this item 9. In the CAD designs, I linked to a stove handle. Now that stove handle on Amazon is, I don't know, 50, 55 bucks in change, but as a thank you to making it all the way to the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to make a handle at a tenth of the cost. I'm going to save you like 50 bucks, okay? So stay to the end of the video and I'll show you how I make handles. Just going to weld up item 7, the flue pipe. Let's get this done and out of the way. Check this out. So I've got like a light sensitivity thing. So I always keep my hood on like the shadiest that it can go. Hell yeah, dude. I did the thing. That's funny. I'm gonna actually clean that up. That looks like shit. I went ahead and I flipped the stove on its back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out this opening so that I can attach item 9. I'm a little winded. This thing is getting heavy. This is all quite simple. I'll be plasma cutting it. If you can't do that, you can cut it with oxygen and acetylene. And if you can't do that, you can use a cutoff wheel. If you'll be cutting it by hand like I'm doing, always want to use a stop guide. I want to be as dead on as possible. I don't want to have any funky lines. I want to make this thing look like it was cut by a machine. Once we've got the opening cut out, I've taken item 9, I flipped it to the back side, I've cleaned off the outside edges. I'm going to apply the self-adhesive wood stove glass gasket. I'm going to do that now, so that way when I go to fit it up, it's going to take into account the thickness of this this gasket tape. Now that we've got the gasket tape on, this opening that we just cut out should be 11 inches by 11 inches, and item 9 should be 12 inches by 12 inches. So if you do the math, that means you'll have a ½ inch lap on all sides. No. Small detail that I missed in the CAD designs. I'm quickly seeing that The bottom lip is held in place by the inline blowing fan. This top lip will be held in place by the baffle. I'm looking at this and I have nothing on the sidewalls to keep this thing from moving as it's heating up and cooling down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the offcuts of the convection tubes and I'm going to weld them on the inside lip of these sidewalls. Do I think this thing would move without it? No. But I want to have the peace of mind knowing that this is the last time that I'm going to weld this stove. I'm just putting this in so that I know that this face isn't going to twist and bend with the heat. Because if it does, then it's not going to seal up as well as it should. Can't actually fit inside of this. And again, this is just bad planning on my end. So I'm just going to have to weld it blind. And you know, I don't think I'm that bad at it. I've got a decent idea, almost like a sixth sense of exactly what my hand is doing, the angle that it's doing it, as well as the speed. Now, again, I can't actually check. Well, I could, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to assume that I'm kind of the best at what I do. Easy peasy. Let's climb inside and I'll show you what the next step is. My goal is simple. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to climb inside and I'm going to take basically the top of this tube off. I'm doing that so that the ash has a place to go. Otherwise, obviously the ash is just going to collect on the bottom. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this bottom plate as kind of a guide to keep myself steady. I still want a little bit of a lip, I'd say about 1/8 of an inch. That way, if the client does want to line the bottom, it'll have something to sit on and it won't just fall into the tube. So, just like that. Easy. So it's a tiny bit choppy, but it'll do. No one's gonna see it. It's gonna be at the bottom of the stove. It's not a big deal. Again, it's a lot of blind spots, a lot of funky angles getting in, but if you've been following along, it should look something like that. Once we went ahead and cut out that top tube, what I'm going to do now is finish up the ash cleanout system. And to do so, I'm going to install this guy, an Amazon auger. I found this online for like 15 bucks. It wasn't quite what I needed, so I ended up having to cut the end of the handle off and extend it by about 2 feet. This was the cheapest option I could find, and I think it'll do well, but this is kind of when some of the custom fab and imagination comes into play. This is just how I'm doing it. If you've got a different way that you'd like to do it, by all means, be my guest. But this is how I'm going to be doing it today. I went ahead and I cut a little piece of steel big enough to fit inside of this bottom pipe, as well as a small hole cut in the middle so that the stem can fit in nice and tight. I'm going to put this in and I'm going to weld it up. Once I have this welded up, I'm going to push the stem in until I see the back of it hit the back of this pipe. And I can use my little angle piece that I set aside a couple of videos ago. I can use that as a guide. What I want to do is place this, oh, how does this go? I want to place this just on the edge of that. How much stick out I'm going to have once this thing is all welded. So I'm going to take a small washer that's going to fit on that stem. I'm going to tack this up, and now it'll only go that deep.
So my mic ended up dying, but what you see me doing now is I'm heating up that stem and just bending some angles into it. This way, when I attach the handle, it's going to be a nice, easy to hold shape instead of just a straight line.
To cap it all off, put the actual handle on, what I did was I took some 1/2-inch solid stock as well as one of these stove handles. I cut the solid stock to fit inside that stove handle just a little bit past flush. Welded it too, and then what I'm going to do is just take this piece and weld it to the end of that stem. So you've got about 1,000,000,001 ways to make this stove handle, but this is the way I did it. And you know what? Didn't come out too bad. Semi-slick, I'd say. I'm going to take this angled piece that I cut off of this pipe a little while ago, and I'm just going to weld it to the back side. I got to get my little steppy stool. So if you've been following along since video 1, you'll know that I mentioned to save some of the offcuts of this outside shell. I'm going to use some of the offcuts as the baffle. Take this offcut, I'm going to slide it just beneath a 6-inch hole in the back and just above this outside lip. Fuck, I gotta get new tools. Hey, buy my CAD plans so I can buy new tools. Now that we've got the baffle in, the bottom lip is held in place by this tube, the top lip is held in place by the baffle, and the sidewalls held in place by these offcuts of the convection tubes. So this section, the baffle, isn't all that complicated, but if you want exact dimensions, you can find that on page 12 of 12 of the official CAD design. In the beginning of this video, we went ahead and we tacked and fitted and fully welded the flue pipe. Put it inside this 6-inch hole. I will level it off best as I can. My time with you is nigh. This stove is just about done, but in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I was going to save you 50 bucks, and I intend to do just that. Well, in the initial CAD designs, I linked to a stove handle you can find on Amazon. That handle is about 50 bucks. I'm going to show you how you can make basically the same thing for maybe 8 bucks, but you'll need a few supplies. I've got 2 small pieces, maybe 1/2 inch long, of 1/2 inch ID pipe. I've also got some 1/2 inch solid stock, about 2.5 foot of that. I've got a stove handle, the same exact one I used on this spot. I'm going to find the middle of this item, which is about 6 inches down. I'm going to go in about 1.5 inches. That 1/2 inch solid stock, and just do a little outline of it. So now I'm going to cut this hole out. And I'm going to slide it in the hole we just cut. On the back side, I'm going to put this piece of 1/2 inch ID pipe onto the solid stock. I'm just going to slide it on. So going to take the second piece of 1/2 inch ID pipe, and I'm going to slide it onto the face. I'm going to tack the 1/2 inch ID pipe to the face and back side of the door plate. And you'll be left with something that looks like this. So we'll come back to this 1/2 inch solid stock. What I did is I cut about 2 inches off the end, tacked it back up at an angle, not at a nice clean 90, but a bit of an obtuse angle. If I had to guess, I would say this angle is about 110-ish, 115, 120 maybe. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. This piece, I will slide it into the 1/2 inch ID pipes. I'm just going to back it all the way out. What I want to do is I want to position this so that angled lip is about in the 9 o'clock position. I'm just going to take note of its position. so I have something to follow. So I'm gonna close the door as tight as it'll go. I'll move this into the 9 o'clock position. And I know it's in the 9 o'clock position because I'm just lining up these dashes. And I'm going to pull it to me as tight as possible and take note of that position. Once I've got all my lines made, I'll open it back up. I'm gonna find my dash, this spot. This is the spot I know that this 1/2 inch solid stock bottoms out on the back wall of this stove. So I'm gonna find that, and then I'm just gonna push past it. Not much, maybe about 1/8 of an inch.
So if I was to leave this as is, this handle, this 1/2 inch solid stock, would be able to basically just float in and out as it pleases. Obviously I don't want that. I want this thing to seal up as nice as possible. So what I'm going to do, a small tack on the top and bottom of both sides. See, now it can't move. Again, I'm just gonna double check that it'll actually seal up, and it looks like it is catching, which is good enough for me. So we double checked the fit up, it all looks good to me. It's time to weld these 1/2 inch, this 1/2 inch caps. Again, using the line that we made, I'm going to close this so it's back in the 9 o'clock position. And I'm gonna heat this handle as close to that 1/2 inch ID pipe as possible. Now once it's nice and hot, you can easily fold this 1/2 inch solid stock down. Now obviously this is a comically sized handle, it's way too long. So I'm gonna cut down a little bit of the excess. I'd say maybe 8 inches I'll be cutting off. Last but not least, I'm going to take this stove handle, just slide it on top. So this one came out slick. It usually does. Again, you've got 1,010,000 ways to make a handle. This is just how I do it, just trying to save you a couple bucks. Check out how good that seals up. That's nice. So I'm loving the way this is looking. I'm loving the way it's sealing up. The last thing to do now is just weld up these hinges. The last thing I'm going to do is install the fuel system. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail just because I've done some past content on this, and it's also kind of one of the simplest things in this build, but I will give you the 101. So I went ahead and I cut a hole in the back left side of the stove, that of which I put in this 1/2 inch plumbing. One end is positioned just above the spot that the flames will be. Extending out maybe 5 inches, it's coming up at an angle that I just went ahead and welded to a shutoff valve, to a 1 inch piece of plumbing, and then I just welded that to the bottom of this piece of pipe. Now you can use anything, you can build a custom box. This is just what I had. Basically just anything that can hold fluids with this 1/2 inch piece welded to the bottom of it.
This is actually the last step. I do this at the end because this fan is kind of expensive, and when I'm moving it, when I'm flipping this stove on its side, on its back, all that stuff, I don't want this to get damaged. So it's going to be the last thing I weld up. Obviously, I've got it unplugged as I'm welding it. As always, if you went ahead and bought the CAD designs, I will include a link to this this blowing fan on Amazon. So if you've been following along, you should have a fully functioning stove. The back of the cleanout pipe is leaking. I'm noticing it's letting out a little bit of smoke. So I'll end up putting one of those caps, those steel plumbing caps. I'll end up welding one to the end of this, and I'll seal it off that way. You might be thinking, wow, that guy is devilishly good looking. You might also be thinking, do these sell? If I build one, will I be able to sell them? The answer is yes, a definitive yes. Now, I'm in the Midwest, Minnesota. The last couple of days, it's been negative 18. So obviously, in a location like that, these things will sell like hotcakes. This one sold a month ago, and I'm just now getting to it. I have a backlog. So if I haven't been able to appeal to you because of the love of the game, building, welding, cutting, fabbing things up, allow me to change my tactic. Money.
Money!
These things sell well. This one I'm selling for 2,500 bucks. I also sell a model without the bottom section. Basically, the ash just collects at the bottom, and you use a dustpan to clean it out. That one I sell for 2,000 bucks, at least at the time of me filming this video. So I hope if you went ahead and you bought those CAD designs, I hope I was able to give as much value to that as possible. I hope this went as smooth as possible. I hope all the steps I made as simple as possible so that you could follow them. And if you have any questions, you can find my email online. Shoot me an email. I'll do my best to get back to you. So with that being said, guys, my name is Matthew. I own MSJ Customs Welding and Fab. If you'd like to buy one, I'll leave a link down below on how you can get a hold of me. And if you'd like to build one, I'll leave a link down below on how you can get a hold of those CAD designs.